signs I get the signs.
Will never be defeated.
The people united 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 will never be defeated.
The people united. Ho ho! The occupation has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! The occupation has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! The occupation has got to go.
The help of the Almighty, I pray to the Almighty to bestow upon me His truth, His wisdom, that I may be worthy of conveying His message, and so, inshallah, sanctify His name. Bring peace to the world. Assalamu alaikum, greetings. It's very unfortunate that we have to gather together at such a sorrowful time. Really should be visiting this beautiful community at a happy occasion, a free Palestine, a free Palestine. But we are here today. The Almighty rules the world, and this is, we do not comprehend all His ways. But we are here to do what His will is. And that is, as a Jewish person, we are obligated, we are to be subservient to God. That is what our religion is. It's a 3,000-year-old religion, to be subservient to God. That is what Judaism is. Zionism is a movement that started around 100-odd years ago, 150. It is a transformation to nationalism, to have a piece of land, to be a nation amongst nations, totally void of godliness. They proudly announce they're a democracy, and yet, at the same time, they wave the Star of David, they call it Israel. So they speak from two sides of the mouths. One side, they claim that this is democracy, it's free for everybody, which is, of course, very, very doubtful, and as we know, are totally not true. But at the other side, they turn around and they tell the world, we are a Jewish state, we are the land that God gave us 3,000 years ago. And if you dare speak up against that, you are anti-Semitic. What they are is a case of hypocrisy. It's a classic case of hypocrisy. It's false. The whole issue is false. Anybody who knows who started Zionism, I always carry around different documents, different pictures. It's a little too far to see. But we carry around the Declaration of Independence of the State of Israel, the reading of the Declaration of Independence by David Ben-Gurion, in 1948 in Independence Hall, and you will see at the dais sitting all of them, not one of them covering their heads. Now they're called supposedly a Jewish state. Imagine a Muslim state without an imam, without a sheikh, without an ayatollah. Imagine a Christian state without a priest, a pope. But this is the blatant hypocrisy. They're making a Jewish state and totally ignoring what this means to be a Jew. To be a Jew means not to steal and not to kill. To be a Jew means not to oppress. Mahu rachum avata teirachum. Just as God is compassionate, you should be compassionate. The whole concept, the whole root, the whole essence of Judaism is to show kindness, to emulate God. Not to steal, not to kill is the basics of Judaism. The basics of Judaism also is to remember the Almighty rules the world. And God told us 3,000 years ago, He stipulated that we are to go to the Holy Land. And then, if we are not on that high level of holiness that is required for the Holy Land, then the land will reject us as a body as the sensitivity of a body rejects a foreign object. And that is what happened 2,000 years ago with the destruction of the temple. And we were dispersed amongst the nations, and we were expressly commanded by the Almighty not to return as a sovereignty, not to make a Jewish sovereignty in any part of the world, and certainly not in Palestine. And Jews obeyed this. Now it's 2,000 years that we haven't attempted to re-establish any type of Jewish sovereignty, Jewish nationalism. Not that their nationalism that they have has anything to do with godliness or Judaism, but even a holy Jewish concept is unacceptable because God said we are forbidden to have this sovereignty. So our rabbis, although we went through the Crusades, the Inquisition, and many suffering through the 2,000 years, we never attempted, and our rabbis warned us never to have such a thing as a Jewish kingdom, a Jewish state, anything of that shape or form. So we, as Jews, when Zionism came along, these people who dreamed up this ideology of Zionism, of creating a state, the rabbis said no, expressly no, it is unacceptable. And then they had their meetings, the Zionists, and they wanted something practical, a lush land, a productive land, on where to be able to develop their country. This was, remember, not at the time of computers. This was in the beginning of the 20th century. So they decided to go to Patagonia. They decided to go to Uganda. But then their thinkers and shakers and movers said, hey, we need a lot of backing, mass backing from the world. We won't get that in Patagonia or Uganda. We'll go to Palestine and we'll tell the world we're a Jewish state. We're doing God's will. And they knew they'll be able to influence, to con the Christians, the evangelistic Christians, and the non-affiliated Jews who do not know their Torah. So they started trying to create the state of Israel. So the whole concept of this state of Israel is one criminal, false entity. It's masquerading in Judaism, rebelling against God by Jews are not allowed to have the sovereignty, and they're not allowed to kill and not allowed to steal. What they're doing is simply a con job. And the rabbis universally stood up in opposition to this occupation. The rabbis of Palestine pleaded with the United Nations. They pleaded with every leadership. They said, we do not want this monstrosity, this creation. But they were ignored because the Zionists were well connected in Britain. On top of that, Jews have to show appreciation, gratitude for the good that is done to them. We, in our history, we went through the Crusades, the Inquisition, we suffered many trials and tribulations. And for hundreds of years, the Muslim and Arab countries, the Ottoman Empire, including in Palestine and Palestine, embraced the Jews. And we were able to flourish, to bring out the greatest rabbis, and we lived in harmony amongst Muslims, practicing Muslims, distinctly religious Jews you could tell very clearly the difference between Muslims and Jews, yet it was never an impediment to coexistence. We lived in harmony, we babysat each other's children. In fact, I'm standing here with great-great-grandchildren of people who lived in Palestine. I have one of my rabbis who came as an 8th generation Palestinian. We have people from around the world, Jews, all the rabbis around the world, from the greatest leaders. This rabbi next to me, his grandfather was here in New York. He was a student of the chief rabbi of Palestine. They all of them, stood up in opposition and said, we are against the existence of the state of Israel. We are against the creation and the existence of the occupation in any shape or form. We cry and sympathize and hurt and feel the suffering of the Palestinians, and we're mortified. We are humiliated because we as Jews are required, and we know we are to show appreciation for the good. When the Jews were being harassed, when they were being murdered by the Inquisition and the Crusades, and throughout history, the Muslims embraced us and took us in. The Arabs took us in. How dare the Zionists, in order to create their state, and in order to get the backing from around the world, the Christians, from the evangelistic Christians, from the non-affiliated Jews, they have to sell a story. Why is there a problem in Palestine? So they tell the world it's because those people in Palestine and the Muslims who are supporting them hate Jews. They have an ingrained hate for Jews. There is nothing more repugnant and repulsive to hear. And for us Jews, it is a horror, because we know and we are so thankful for good that we have been done to us, the hospitality, the friendship that has been given to us. How dare these people who have a selfish goal of establishing their sovereignty, how dare they, in order to do that, vilify and accuse good people of being evil and hating the Jews. We therefore are obligated, and the chief rabbis of Palestine. Now I want you to know, when I say chief rabbis of Palestine, the Zionists have chief rabbis. They have a rabbinate. But that's just more of that game of using the Star of David and calling it the State of Israel. It's a farce. We have a rabbinate. We have rabbis, and it's called Eda Charedis, the God-fearing community of Jerusalem. We have hundreds of thousands of Jews living in the Holy Land who are totally against the State of Israel. And they cry and they hurt with the Palestinian people suffering. They hurt with the people in the refugee camps in Sabra Shaltila and Baja Varajna and all the countries around where they are unfortunately living in refugee camps. And of course in the West Bank and in Gaza, what's happening there, this is something that we simply are crying to God and pleading God with His mercy should end it immediately. This terrible, horrendous Nakba, what is being done to the Palestinian people. We as Jews have been standing up, and I carry around pictures, and anybody could go to our site. You can see how Jews stand on the streets of Jerusalem, and we are not carrying guns. Nobody can accuse us of being terrorists, militant. They can't even begin to accuse us because there is no guns. There's no reason to accuse us. Nobody's being killed by us. And yet they accuse the Jews. They take the Jews and they beat them mercilessly. They arrest them. They've assassinated our rabbis. Yet still in all, as the chief rabbis of Palestine, Rabbi Teitelbaum of blessed memory, one of the chief rabbis who was just recently, he moved to New York. He didn't want to remain under the Zionists, but he remained with the title Chief Rabbi of Palestine. He pleaded with his followers. He said, we must go out to the streets at the cost of our lives and let the world know what is happening. The occupation, the existence of the state is not in the name of God, in the name of Judaism. It's not in the name of Judaism, and there are Jews around the world who are true to the Torah, who refuse to accept this occupation, and that we are constantly standing and sympathizing and feeling the suffering of the Palestinian people. And we are crying and praying to God. We have days of the year where we fast simply because to pray to God for the dismantlement. God should help with His compassion without any bloodshed, the total dismantlement of the state. We have classes, we teach our children, we have books and the weeklies and monthlies and all different ways of training our children that they should understand and remember the goodness of the Muslims and the Palestinian people, and to remember that this occupation is illegitimate. And we know that God Almighty is the Almighty. We know that with His compassion, as it says in the Torah, why are you rebelling against me? It will not be successful. The state of Israel will end. It will be totally dismantled. There will come that day, but we don't know when. We are, though, as people who are created by the Almighty, required to stand up and for righteousness, for tzedek, for goodness. We are to stand up and beseech, both pray to the Almighty and speak up to the leaders of the world and protest and never be silent and plead with our leaders, insist that they should stop. Just as apartheid, if anybody who's from a generation of mine will remember, for many, many years, South Africa was one of the countries in the United Nations where their ambassador was called His Excellency, and their president and everybody was given the greatest respect. And the ones who stood up for simple what people call humanity, for people call humane rights, people who called up and said, how dare you, how can you tell a black person that he sits in the back of a bus? How could you say he can't drink from the same fountain? Nelson Mandela was in prison for over 20 years and was considered a terrorist. He was considered a criminal. And the whole world went its merry way. The world of people who prayed, people who went and prayed to God and considered themselves godly and considered themselves the elite of society. And they were the ones who accepted this apartheid. Today, if you will take any child and you will ask them, does this make sense to you? Will you believe that your grandparents were able to accept such a thing? And he'll say, no, it can't be. It can't be, because it defies logic. But it was. But it did end. This will also end. This occupation, which is so against logic, which is against God, this will end. So we are just urging everybody, do not be discouraged. Just as we found Greek Empire, Roman Empire, the apartheid, all these things ended. This will end. But we have to be what God wants of us, to stand up and speak out and plead for the people who are suffering. Now there are bombs. As we're standing here and we're wondering, are the raindrops going to ruin our clothes? Are the raindrops going to... In Gaza, they're standing there and hearing that noise. Is that a bomb? And where is it going to land? Who's going to die? That's what they're listening at. And their people are dying. And there are thousands and maybe 10,000 people today or more, God forbid, who are injured, who are maimed for life. It's hard to talk about even, to think about. So we have to stand up. We are obligated to stand up. I apologize for the many, many other Jews who do not stand up. There are many, hundreds of thousands, and around the world, the ones who are true to the Torah are not supporters of Zionism. It's contradictory to our religion, and every Jew who is truly religious knows that it's unacceptable. But not everybody stands out, and there's a reason. I went to a demonstration a few days ago in Manhattan, and we parked the car a few blocks away, and we went to pray. I came out, the tires were slashed. The windows, the mirrors were broken. And this is a nothing by us. And we get death threats. This morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call. This is ongoing. This is a thing that happens. Jews lose their job when they go out to demonstrate. People go around with cameras and they take pictures of everybody and they try to find which company he works for, and then they go and they harass the owners of the business. This is when we make demonstrations. We consideration how many people are going to lose their jobs, how many people are going to suffer, and how they're going to suffer. So I apologize for the people who are silent, but no, the reasons of silence is not because they do not feel the suffering. It's because they are intimidated, they are scared. And likewise, as you well know maybe, there's a powerful Zionist lobbies that silence the media, that silence the politicians. There are many politicians. As we have to respect our leaders, that's what Judaism requires. But we know that a lot of them, they're being led by the ones who put them into office, and they're fearful of losing their jobs. And a lot of these people, and I'm not condoning what they're doing because of that, but that's a fact. There's people, a lot of them off the books will tell you they sympathize, but they're not speaking because they're intimidated. Again, I'm not saying that's an answer why they should be doing. They've accepted to be leaders. They should be leaders. They are required to be leaders. That's what their job is. But there's the media that doesn't show the demonstrations of our tens of thousands of Jews and all the people who are speaking up for Palestine. They don't show the suffering of the Palestinian people. So God gave us the mindset, because don't think that we're such heroes. It's God blessed us that we have the mindset to stand up, speak up. We should stand up and continually not be intimidated. And let me tell you, they accuse everybody who speaks up against Zionism as being anti-Semitic. We as Jews, my grandparents died in Auschwitz. My father escaped from Hungary when the Nazis came. My mother's family were from Hungary and Poland, and almost all our relatives were murdered. We know what this is, this suffering. We know what anti-Semitism is. But Zionism is anti-Semitism. The state of Israel is anti-Semitism. Simply, logically, Jews lived in every Arab land for hundreds of years. What changed? What changed? Zionism and the state of Israel came into Palestine, and all of a sudden there's a mistrust and a hate. They are the exacerbators of anti-Semitism. They are the cause of the endless river of bloodshed of Palestinians, Palestinian Arab, Palestinian Jew, Palestinian Muslim, Palestinian Christian, both the Muslims, the Jews. The endless river of bloodshed is purely because of the creation of the state and its ongoing occupation. There is no other way of looking at this. The ones who are trying to sell you a narrative are because it's Zionist, powerful PR. So you are not anti-Semitic when you speak up for Palestine. And you will see the largest Jewish communities right here in New York, right across from Manhattan. The most largest concentration of religious Jews is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. There's not one single Israeli flag flying there. And you will go to Mea Sharem in Jerusalem, you go to London, Stamford Hills, wherever there is the most religious Jewish communities, they oppose the existence of the state, of the occupation, even 1 centimeter, 1 inch of it. So you are not anti-Semitic by speaking up. Yes, Zionism tells you that if you speak against Israel, you're anti-Semitic. But they also tell you that the Palestinian blood is not blood. They also tell you that they're not humane, they're not human beings, that they're terrorists, their words are nothing. Their words mean nothing. It's only an intimidation tactic. We dare not be silent. Speak up and take courage and look at the Jewish communities, and you will see the very religious. You are not anti-Semitic. On the contrary, the Zionists are the anti-Semitic, anti-Semites and their state. Let us all speak up and pray to God ultimately, because everything is in His hand. Let us pray and hope, and really God should help, that we should see today the end of the occupation in its entirety. And until that minute comes, let us stand up, speak up, and God should have compassion of the people on Gaza, the people on occupied Palestine, the people in the refugee camps, and all the people who are suffering around the world. Inshallah, soon in our days of free Palestine, we can serve God in harmony. Soon in our days, where all humanity will recognize the one God and serve Him in harmony. Assalamu alaikum.
Judaism, yes.
Zionism, no.
Zionism, no.
The state of Israel must go.
The state of Israel must go.
Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.